How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the Creators Process. As you know, my name is Jaden, and right next to me is Aisha. How are you doing today?
Yeah, good.
Yeah, very good. And so tell us a bit about yourself. So what do you do?
So I guess I do a bit of everything artistically. Like I do photography and I also do some illustration, both digital and traditional. Mostly digital this year just because I've been a bit lazy. But yeah, I also do a bit of sewing and craft stuff. Pretty much a little bit of everything. Yeah.
It's fantastic. And so how, I guess, what you were saying before, off camera, before we were starting, you don't really know how to pinpoint where you, like, what year you started. Like, I guess, you know, when was your first, I guess, interaction with art? Like, when was the thing of, like, this is what I want to do? How long ago was that?
I think I was 5 or 6. It was definitely, like, early. I know it was in primary school, just because I had art class and I really enjoyed it, obviously, and the teachers always said I was pretty good at it and actually enjoyed it. So yeah, I think like from a pretty young age, like I've always been doing something artistic, and kind of obviously I've always thought about doing it as like an adult, but I didn't really start thinking about it seriously until maybe the last 2 or 3 years, that I was like, okay, I actually could do this as at least a side gig, although now it's more of a full-time gig. But yeah, so it's pretty much, I guess that's where I would sort of pinpoint the whole like, yeah, I can do this as my main sort of thing.
Yeah.
Like I did go to art school for a while, and even when I was there, I kind of was all over the place. I was like, oh, I'm going to art school for fashion design. I'm like, actually, no, let me do it for photography. And I'm like, but I also had to learn drawing for my fashion degree. And I think because I started doing more drawing in uni, that kind of made me realize I actually enjoyed just drawing like for art purposes, and not just for like fashion illustration. So I didn't end up finishing my fashion degree. I dropped out of that and went into photography. Yeah.
Oh, it's
bit all over the place.
Quite a history back there.
Yeah.
It's sounds like art has been a very all through your life. You've just always
pretty
wanted
much
to do that.
Yeah. So I feel like, I guess if we're gonna be in that regard, like I've been an artist like as long as I can remember. But if we're gonna be technical in terms of like how I introduce myself and people say like, what do you do? Then I'd say I've been an artist for the last 2-3 years, I guess.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. And so what are some of your inspirations when it comes to creating art? Like I've realized with a lot of your work that it has a really cool dark feel to it. Like what is the inspirations behind
I'm not sure actually. Yeah. It just comes from wherever. I feel like I subconsciously get inspired by a lot of things. Like, so when people ask like, oh, where did you get that idea from? Like, I actually couldn't tell you. Like, it's probably from some movie I saw and I liked this one scene and wanted to recreate it somehow. I mean, that is what I've done occasionally. Or, you know, it's like, I liked this bit in some movie, or I'm gonna draw something inspired by that. Or I might just see someone else's work and be like, that's cool, how can I make it my own? Because obviously I don't want to copy, because...
Yeah.
But yeah, I'll see them like, that's a cool idea, I like how they did that. I'm going to try doing something similar, or, you know, take elements from that. So yeah, I think it just, I'm not really sure where I get inspired from. It just kind of comes sometimes, and yeah, I guess the whole dark thing is I just kind of like that. I've always had, even when I was doing art in high school, like the big theme of my work back then was like combining sort of like beauty and ugliness and like good, like just contrasting elements. And so a lot of my work was very sort of like, you know, pretty but in a weird way. And I feel like that idea and theme has kind of carried on into my adulthood and into my art, where I just Yeah, like even when I do my nature photos, which are a bit less like creative, but they're just like photos of birds and stuff, like I still kind of like that, you know, mix of like, this is making everything kind of moody and dark. I don't know, it just, it makes me happy.
That's awesome. I have to say, I saw I think it was your recent post of the crows that you photographed,
Yeah.
and there's just such a beautiful feel to it, even though it's got like such a dark sense to it. There's just something beautiful about it.
Yeah,
and
like like I've always sort of liked that, like the beauty and darkness kind of thing, and like have always been into the more like darker side of things. I only wear black pretty much, you know, so yeah, it's pretty cliche, but yeah, I guess it's just that like, I guess maybe because growing up it was like, oh, everything's so gloomy, you look so gloomy and dark and blah blah blah, it's like that can't be pretty. I'm like, but there is something nice and charming about that darkness and embracing it, and you know, making, I guess, light of it in a way, like making it something that people actually like looking at, even though it's kind of dark and moody. Like there's always something charming about rainy, gloomy days, you know, like even though they're not pretty in that conventional sense, but there's still something nice about them, and I think that's sort of where a lot of that comes from with my work, is just that sort of like, it might not be conventionally pleasant, but I like making it pretty even though it's dark and gloomy.
Yeah, so you're taking like something that that's conventionally not seen as pretty, but then making it pretty.
Exactly.
And I definitely can get that when I look at your work. There's just such a beauty behind just what you do, and I think that's amazing how you're able to do that. Like, is there, like, when you're creating work, so you said that you sometimes take inspirations from just anywhere around, like sometimes movies, shows and all that sort of thing. Is there like a process of how you approach the art? Like when you come to creating it, is there a process of how, like, you know, you go from here to here and find the product? And,
yeah, kind of, in a way. Like, it's not super structured, but it's more like, okay, I like this element. Like, for example, one of the recent drawings I did, that was obviously for a art challenge based on color, and so I had the colors in mind, which were earth tones, and I'm like, okay, what's, like, in my mind I'm just like, okay, I'm gonna do something kind of tree-ish and nature related because of the color scheme that I was given, and my first thought was like Evil Dead, the tree roots. Like, it was obviously a lot less nice in the movie, but I liked that idea of just like being entwined with roots and vines and stuff, and I guess I've got vines around me anyway, so that kind of just popped into my head as like an easy thing to put on paper or digital, whatever. So that's where that idea came from. So sometimes it's just like it's not like a specific thing, but or it's like it's one specific thing and I just kind of generalize it, and there isn't really like a strict process, I guess. It just kind of, I take little bits and pieces, and then I'll sometimes just, if I have an idea for a pose, then I just start doing it, or I'll, like, you know, for drawings especially, like I'll, you know, browse through just photos and try to figure out how do I want to pose this. So it's not seamless. It's a bit all over the place, and there's a lot of revisions, but yeah, I think that's kind of how my brain works too. It's just kind of like takes bits and pieces and just tries it, and if it works, then it works. If not, then I'll start over.
It's all about trial and error at the end of the day. It's about how, you know, like, I think that's really interesting. Like, you know, when I created this series, it's all about, you know, the people's different way of processing and creating art, and that's your way of doing it. And with photography, I guess, like, for my more artsy portrait stuff, that tends to be a bit more experimental, unless I've got a like proper concept and like end product in mind. Like, I'll usually have the idea of like what I want the product or the photo to look like in the end, and when that happens, like, it's pretty much a quick shoot. It'll be like, set it up,
take a few photos and that's it. But like for some of my photos, I'll just be like, I don't really know what I'm doing, but I just want to try some stuff. And I'll just set up the camera, kind of do, I don't know, get some props and things and set out like a couple hours to just play around and just self-timer, and I'll end up with like 300 something photos and they're all different, and I'll just go through them. I'm like, well, that worked, that didn't, and just, yeah, sometimes it's just that sort of like, let's see what can work. And I feel like those shoots also end up helping with when I've got like the proper idea shoots, because then I'm like, I know that, okay, that idea and that pose didn't quite work, like it looked weird, that placement of the camera didn't quite work, you know, so avoid that when I have this idea to do.
Yeah.
So yeah, those are kind of experimental, but sometimes
Okay.
I end up with like some of my favorite work from that, just because it's just in the moment and it's like,
Yeah.
hey, that worked, cool.
So, you know, for next time.
Yeah, exactly. Whereas the ones that are more clinical and like set up, like I want the product to look like this, are usually like, that's all there is. Like I don't get anything else out of it but the one photo I had in mind.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I do enjoy the experimental shoots.
So you definitely think that when it comes to what you do, experimenting and, you know, doing a lot of trial error is very important?
Definitely. I feel like that's a lot of my thing, especially because I went so long without doing photography. Like I took such a long break that I really needed to just play with it and get a feel for it again and figure out what I like and what I don't like again. So ISO's been great for that. So that's where that came from. Yeah.
Yeah, it seems like, you know, when I've been talking to people, it's been one of the best things with ISO. It's just been able to experiment and just discover new ways of creating art. Like, it really has tested that.
Yeah, so I think, definitely, like, I actually just got back into doing sort of self-portrait shoots, like, creatively, and not just, like, selfies, obviously, but, like, doing, like, creative self-portraits has only happened since ISO, because obviously I had no models. I couldn't go out to, you know, the bush or whatever and take photos of animals out there or nature. So it was like, well, I've got me and I'm at home. What can I do with that? And that kind of just forced me to play around with it. And I was like, this isn't for anyone. There's no expectations, because this was just me playing around at home. Like I had no intention of actually like using the photos if they turned out crap. So yeah, it's been really good for just playing around. Same with like digital art. Like I got an iPad to try digital art like last year just to play around with it. Like it wasn't even something I was planning to do as like a main art form, but being in ISO, you know, it worked out. And then so it's been really good for just figuring out new things and getting inspired. And now I've got like a backlog of ideas. We'll get to that, you know, next year, because obviously there's no time this year, but
this year is literally in our rearview mirror.
Yeah, exactly.
That's fantastic. And do you get like, so who are some of your, when it comes to other artists, who inspire you to create art? Like who are some of your biggest influences? Do you think?
It's hard to pinpoint like a few, because I follow a lot of really great artists. So obviously like a lot of those like people I follow on Instagram are kind of my inspiration, I guess, in a way, just from looking through my feed. In art school, I could have told you more
of
my inspirations, just because I had to kind of pay more attention to them, whereas these days I guess I'm mostly just on Instagram for inspiration. So that's sort of where that just comes from, and just like from looking at things. Sometimes I might just kind of look through that. Most of the people I follow, I guess, do a lot of shoots, like forest shoots and sort of same kind of moody self-portrait type stuff I do, as well as some like darker kind of horror art. And that's sort of, I guess, where most of that inspiration comes from when I'm having a bit of a block or whatnot. But a lot of times these days it just sort of comes from myself.
That's all
and
good.
Just sort of like, I'm like, I like that idea, I'll try it. I guess because when I started that new Instagram where you found me from, I didn't really start it as sort of like, I just didn't really have any expectations for it. It was just like, I'm experimenting. This is where I'm going to put my stuff. If people like it, cool. If not, I don't really care. Like, I just need a place to put all this stuff because I've got so much work. I had so many photos, so many drawings and stuff like that I was like, it needs a place to go.
Yeah.
And I just started posting, and so I just started following people that, you know, I liked their photos, and yeah.
So in a way, like your Instagram, you mainly follow people who inspire you to create more art.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah.
Like, I follow a lot of people that I'm like, yeah, I like the look of your work, and it makes me feel a certain way that I'm like, I want to create that same feeling for other people in a way, as well as for myself, obviously. So it's like that kind of, that's sort of how that worked out.
Awesome.
So I've got that Instagram as kind of my inspiration
Mood board.
Yeah, in a way. It is pretty much my mood board. Like, I follow a lot of people that I'm just like, I like that. I like how that looks. I like seeing that in my feed. That keeps me inspired and keeps me having ideas, whereas before, when I didn't really have that specific account, that I did have a lot more art block, I think, because I just wasn't following people
people.
I didn't follow. So it is kind of like my virtual mood board that's just like constantly changing, and like every time I see something I like, I kind of get a mental note of it. I'm like, I like that. How can I make that for myself?
No, I like that, and I definitely think it is important to have, like, you know, a good, for me, like, I know that I do the same. I follow people who inspire me to keep creating art as well, and, you know, so you definitely think that's a very important aspect of that.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. And so, for a last question, do you have many projects coming up in the next few weeks?
None specifically that have been fleshed out, but I do have quite a few ideas that I have in mind. They require some props, which I haven't gotten around to working on.
Yeah.
Just because I haven't had time, but those are definitely things I've had in mind. So that is sort of like the other kind of creative thing that I do is I do like make props a lot. So that started mostly just because I needed it for pole performances that I was doing, and I used to make like headpieces back in the day, and then I just kind of got over it because it just took too long and I just didn't have the patience for it anymore. But I'll still do them occasionally, like if people request them, like, hey, you know, can you make me this? I'll be like, yeah, sure. But I'm not advertising it as a thing I do just because it's too time consuming. But yeah, so I've got a few props that I've got to make for certain shoot ideas I have. So those will definitely be coming sometime next year. Yeah, I've got a busy end of year, and I think I've got a few like trips that I'm doing at the start of next year, just because we can finally travel.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's been a while, so I've got a few weekends away that I think we're planning, and at some point planning to go to Tassie again. Probably not in summer though, because it seems fully booked out. But yeah, so that's sort of. I've definitely got a list of ideas. I haven't written them down. They're in my head. As long as they're still in
Bouncing
there,
around
you
in
know,
there,
and they are, like, they're just constantly there every day. I'm like, I need to remember to do this. Yeah, so I've got like a bunch of bones, and I've got some like things that I need to work into some shoot when I can get the props ready. So I am planning to do a lot more elaborate shoots next year, hopefully, again, if the props allow. And I think a lot of that is just that in ISO I didn't really, like, I had the time to do experiments, but I didn't really have the time to make really elaborate props, so I didn't really have that, like, because I was still playing around with it and just testing the waters of, like, I haven't done this kind of photography in
a while,
at least 5 years. Like, it's been ages since I've done it. That I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just gonna play around with what I have and myself. But then now that I'm kind of getting back into it, and I'm like, okay, this works. I'm enjoying it, you know, and I know that it's more about me, but also other people are enjoying it, which makes which is nice because it's like, oh, okay, you know, I'm glad that it's not just a selfish thing.
Yeah,
like
yeah,
other
yeah.
people are enjoying what I do, so I'm like, I'll actually put more effort into it and, you know, do something a bit more creative and elaborate and, you know, have just take it that next level now that I've kind of figured out what works and that I like to do it, basically. So, yeah, expect just something a bit more extra next year, I guess. Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, I am very much looking forward to seeing some future work.
Cool.
So I really love your work, so I'm really
you.
excited about that. Well, I want to first of all say thank you for inviting me into your home and interviewing you for this channel. It was my absolute pleasure to do this.
Yeah, thanks for asking.
And yeah, guys, please go and check out her work. I will leave all her links to everything in the video description below. Thank you for watching. Comment, like, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.